Hello YouTube, back again for another video. And considering the amount of gaps between things usually when it comes to the Upper Deck AEW license, it's downright an avalanche of news. Earlier this week I did the video talking about SP Game Used and kind of the announcement that that would be a new product that would be coming out for AEW and from the Upper Deck license. And that's not going to be until probably later on this year, probably towards the end of it, fall and kind of winter time. We'll see, of course, with delays, it could get pushed back as always. But regardless, it was a new product that we could talk about. Well, this time around I want to talk about 2025 Upper Deck Flagship. And since we've got a checklist here, which I'll be able to share with you here in a moment, I'll also include a link in the description so you can check it out for yourself. And then I'll also be able to talk about some of the images that have been released, because usually just before a release, you get a couple of images of the cards themselves. So I'll be able to share that with you from a Facebook post, link into the description as well if you want to check that one out. But regardless, we've got some new happenings with it, which is great. That means at least we got something new to talk about. But for some folks, I am going to have a few disappointments. And then I'm also going to go through parts of the checklist. I'm not going to go through everything, but I'll touch on a few specific things. And some of them may come as no surprise, and some of them I think may be a little bit disappointing for some, but we'll get into that. So first of all, real quick here, I wanted to quickly go over kind of the configuration because it is going to play into the odds that I'm going to share with you in a moment. And this is where I say some of the disappointment is going to come in, I think, for some of you based on some of the feedback I've seen from some of the previous sets. So I'll kind of remind you, don't shoot the messenger. I'm merely reading this, and this is, if this turns out the way that I expect it to based on the odds, I think some people are definitely going to have some words about this one. So just to remember, it is 12 cards per pack and 12 packs per box, and 12 boxes per case. So every single case is going to be 144 packs. That's important because when we look at some of these odds, then you're going to get a better sense of, you know, is this a case hit? Is this a multi-case hit? Whatever the case may be. It's going to be a little bit easier to get your head around that if you remember that it's 144 packs per case. So having said that, let's go into the checklist here with some of the odds and everything else, and let's get a bit of a sense of it. So I'm going to bring this over into the page here. I'm going to look at the Excel spreadsheet that comes with it. You can download this from the link that I'm going to provide you. It is from Beckett themselves, so they've been provided that. And again, since we do have the checklist and we do have some of the images that I'm going to share, that means that they've got an April 9th release date, which is probably going to be pretty close. Even if it's off, it might be off by a week or so, but once you get the checklist and those things, you're usually about a couple of weeks away. So that's right on schedule in terms of what we expect with that release date in mind. Your base set is not going to be fundamentally different than what you're used to. You're going to be looking at 100 cards with the first UD being kind of a different thing. I'll talk about that in a second. And I'll also be able to show you kind of an example so you'll be able to see what it is. But regardless, you've got a couple of short prints built into the base set. But what it comes down to is 100 cards is your entire base set as normal. You got a full complement of parallels, as you can see here, going right from gold all the way to Outburst Gold 1 of 1s. And it shows here hobby and e-pack exclusive in a lot of cases, but then you've got blaster exclusives like Diamond Plate and Pink Pyro returns as blaster exclusive numbered out of 79, which again will be a little bit sneaky if a kind of history follows, but again, it wasn't priced like anything crazy, which is something I'll talk about here in the conclusion. But looking at the checklist, a lot of this checklist is honestly what you would expect. Really no big crazy names or big additions here. We'll go into like the little subset here in a second, but again, you can see right there a lot of the basic names that you expect, and you're also going to have a couple of folks that aren't going to be there anymore because based on the timing and the lead time required for this checklist. Most of it is up to date with the current roster, but then you do have Ricky Starks on here, which obviously not there anymore. Saraya, not there anymore either, and they're back-to-back on the checklist, so kind of ironic there. But regardless, the rest of this checklist stays pretty accurate to the current roster. There hasn't been a lot of turnover. There is starting to be a little bit, but for the most part, this checklist covers a lot of the folks that are currently in AEW. Even if they haven't been on TV in a while, they're still technically on the roster. Then we go to first UD where we talk about some newer folks, but this is mainly as part of the flagship because obviously Okada and Mercedes Moné and other folks like that, they were actually already included. And even Queen Aminata is another example. Shane Taylor. Well, these folks were in Allure. But this is as a flagship product. I think these are the first one for them. Hologram would be another one that I think would be notable. A lot of these other ones are kind of what you would expect. And Harley Cameron, who obviously had cards in Allure as well. But as a flagship product, I think this is her first flagship product, hence first UD. From there, the rest of the subsets are where you're used to. Tag teams and trios, as well as the refs, announcers, and trainers. Again, a lot of the standard fare that you're going to be looking at. A lot of these tag teams and trios may not be together on the show anymore. Again, Harley Cameron / Saraya, good example of that. But examples like that are because of the timing and lead time again. Same kind of thing. Same vein also, you can look at Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King. Same kind of deal. Again, some of these are going to be out of date simply because of the lead time to get this product out the door. In terms of refs, announcers, and trainers, again, usual kind of thing. So if you like your Justin Roberts and your Aubrey Edwards, here they are, and various parallels of them. So they're all there for you. One other thing that I'll quickly note here. So the photo variants checklist here is a little bit sizable. There's a lot of folks that have the photo variants. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping there's not going to be photo shoot things again. I would actually like alternate photographs. One thing, though, that I think is notable, and I had to go in and double check just to make sure, this is 1 in 432 packs. So it is a multi-case hit, regardless. That's why I said 144 packs in a case. 1 in 432 is a multi-case hit, but I wanted to double check. So quickly, I'm just going to go back over here. This is 2024, and in 2024, it was 1 in 480 hobby packs. So it is actually marginally easier. I'm not sure how they came out with exactly 1 in 432. And then also the checklist, I think, is a little bit bigger than the last time. So that's just something to note, that it's still difficult, but marginally easier, at least compared to previous years. But the photo variant checklist is back, and you're going to see a lot of that. Next tab here is actually where I think you're going to get a little bit of disappointment, because one of the feedback pieces that I've heard from a lot of folks, especially when it comes to a lot of the Upper Deck products, especially Flagship, is that a lot of people look at the price of the boxes and they say there should be more autographs. Well, right here, the base autograph checklist is 82 cards, and they're 1 in 130 hobby packs. For those keeping score at home, I said that the entire case is 144 packs. So if a base autograph is 1 in 130 packs, that means you can expect about an autograph per case. I'll just let that sit there. I'll leave that to you to respond to that however you see fit, but I'm just warning you, based on these odds that we're looking at right now, it looks like it's going to be a little bit tougher than ever before, to pull these autographs. And certain ones, as you can see there on the checklist on the third column C there, some of them are short printed and super short printed. And it's going to be some of the names that people are going to want to chase, so they're going to be even tougher than before. So again, you're looking at E-Pack being the same odds as well, and then blister packs being even double the odds on that. But 1 in 130 packs per hobby or E-Pack means that a lot of these are going to be pretty tough pulls. So you can expect to go a lot of boxes where you're not going to pull an autograph. So real quick, one other thing that I will note here as well is that in terms of parallels for the autographs, you're looking at the gold 1 of 1, which is same as the past, the printing plate versions for select cards, which we'll scroll down and we'll see that in a moment. But the only parallel we've got that is not a 1 of 1 is a pyro out of 5. Before, there have been parallels out of 25, and then also parallels out of 10, and then parallels out of 5, and various versions of that. We're looking here at the base autograph and then an out of 5. And then the rest is 1 of 1s. So if anything, what I'm looking at here is I'm seeing even less autographs in this product than in the past. So something to bear in mind. We'll continue forward, but I just wanted to make note of that, because I think that's something that obviously a lot of folks look at and talk about when it comes to opening these boxes. And I think that's going to be a very interesting impact on kind of the chase that a lot of people have. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's short prints and super short prints. Copeland SSP, MJF SSP, so there's 2 that people might be interested in. Eddie Kingston and Jericho as SPs. Kingston not so much, but Jericho at this point is also a little bit played out. But those are short prints. Timeless Tony Storm, short print. That's one that people would want. Moxley, short print. Kyle Fletcher, I'm not sure why, short print. Takeshita, short print. Claudio, short print. Mariah May, SSP. That one is going to be a bit of a tough one. For me personally, the Britt Baker one being short printed, wonderful. As if I needed that. Bryan Danielson, super short print. Pac, SP. Swerve, SSP. Hangman, SSP. Basically, a lot of the folks that you would want, SSP. Wheeler Yuta, again, I don't know why, SSP. Will Ospreay, SSP. So not only is it going to be tougher to get autographs, it's going to be tougher to get a lot of the autographs that you probably would want. Scrolling forward, now I would like to tell you that the news gets better, but it actually is going to get a little bit worse for certain characters and certain individuals. So I mentioned a moment ago, it's already going to be tougher to get autographs. Well, the first UD subset has autographs as well. Let's scroll down. 1 in 900 hobby packs. So I did a little bit quick math there with an edit. 1 in 900 hobby packs with 144 packs in a case, you're looking at about 6 1/4 cases to get one of these. And you're talking Okada, you're talking Mercedes Moné, Shibata, Queen Aminata, Shane Taylor, and Harley Cameron. Again, some of these names are going to be ones that people are definitely going to be chasing after. Those are going to be tough based on these odds here that we're looking at. 1 in 900 on E-Pack as well, and 1 in 1800 blaster packs. Good luck with the chase. Again, this is a bit of a perplexing choice. I know that Upper Deck over the years has tried to move away from some of these autographs, but obviously one of the criticisms has been not enough autographs. And I get the idea of not saturating the market with them to make them, worth less. And this will certainly hold value for some of these, but again, it kind of makes the chase almost unfair. 1 in over 6 cases to get one of these, that's a really tough pull. Tag teams, even worse. 1 in 1600 hobby packs. Again, same kind of thing. Refs and announcers, 1 in 1200 hobby packs. Now imagine you buy a box and you pull a 1 in 1200 hobby pack pull and you get Excalibur. No slight on Excalibur, but oh my goodness, I could see that play out, and the reaction would be interesting. Let's just put it that way. Aubrey Edwards, Stephen Smith, Renee Paquette, Justin Roberts, Lexi Nair. Again, 1 in 1200 packs. That's a bit rough. I'm not going to lie. Printing plates. 74 of them have printing plates. They're all one of one. Obviously, you've got the different colors and everything, different versions. So kind of standard. You know, they've been in there in the past. Ringmaster autographs, which are very popular. I'll actually be able to show you a picture one here from based on what Upper Deck provided. These are 1 in 3,000 hobby packs. Super tough cards. They've been tough in the past. They'll be tough again in this case. There's 10 of them in the checklist. That's tough. And then 2024 update autographs. They've got them with no specific ratio here. Billy Gunn, Deanna Purrazzo, Chris Statlander, Mother Wayne, Nick Wayne, Taya Valkyrie, Will Ospreay, The Acclaimed, and Top Flight. The Mother Wayne one is kind of an interesting one, but again, this is another short printed thing. So autographs are definitely not going to be the main chase that a lot of people are going to have. Well, they're going to be the chase from the perspective that they're going to be very tough to pull. And if you want one for your collection, well, then you're definitely going to have your hands full trying to find this. I don't know how this is going to play out as far as folks reacting to it in the marketplace. It's going to make it very interesting. Let's just put it that way. I'll go over to the tab for memorabilia. You're looking at your base matte relics, reds, 1 in 24 blaster packs, 90 card checklist, pretty sizable. And then of course you got your first UD, which again are tougher, 1 in 144 blaster packs. Those are tough. Tag teams are a little bit tougher as well. Your base memorabilia reds, so as opposed to your matte relics, these are your memorabilia relics, 1 in 57 hobby. There is a gold parallel out of 25. And again, there are short prints and super short prints. So kind of interesting that they would go that approach here in the base memorabilia as well. So again, you can see a lot of the names that you might be thinking of, they're SP'd. And that's kind of interesting to take that approach. So just scrolling through to see if there's anything else in particular. Looks pretty standard. First UD, 1 in 342 hobby packs. So first UD subset, memorabilia relic. So Mercedes Moné, 1 in 342 hobby packs. But then on top of that, this is an SSP. You really are making some of these very tough to get some of these pulls. Tag teams, 1 in 171 hobby packs. Again, very tough. So memorabilia, again, is also very interesting. As usual, when it comes to these flagship, you've got a lot of inserts. You got the retouch this back, 1 in 1,440 hobby packs. That's 1 in 10 cases to get one of these retouched. We've seen some of these retouched in the past. A little bit questionable for them. It's interesting that they would bring them back and make them 1 in 10 cases. That's very tough. I don't have too much to say about some of these inserts. Backstage chatter, I'm not too familiar with it. Day with the Belt, 1 in 720 hobby packs. Again, super tough. You can see there's a 15 card checklist of that. I always appreciate they managed to include a bit. The Day with the Belt is one that I have been chasing most of the years of these. So again, they remain very tough. Dazzler Blue, you got a 50 card checklist, so a couple of parallels to it, nothing too crazy. I think these are fun, especially for player collectors that can enjoy that. The playing cards are back. You've got the double or nothing playing cards, 54 cards total. You got your different parallels there, the gold speckle foil and a printing plate version. 1 in 4 hobby packs to start off with, so you got a full checklist there. You got your face cards, your aces, your jokers with Renee Paquette and Tony Schiavone. Kind of a fun little throw in there at the end. And they do get progressively tougher as you get into the aces and then the jokers. The finish it checklist includes that double-sided card. So real quick, I will go back over to the tab here. And if I scroll up here, it's this one. So they use the Mariah May Tony Storm example. Pretty good. I kind of like the concept of it. I'll like to see it in hand, but it's one of those ones that are kind of interesting. So you got a 30 card checklist for that one. You can scroll through. Foundational Outlook, 20 cards on that one. I'm not too familiar with it. Haven't seen any images from it. Here from the start, talking, I guess, about originals. So that'll be kind of interesting with a couple of parallels of those. Neon Monikers, which is included in the mock-ups. We've got that. Total Access, which is a throwback to previous. UD Canvas, 40 card checklist, which seems pretty reasonable. But then you've got these short printed from card 31 to card 40. UD Portraits, which follows along with a lot of the flagship stuff from the past. And that's it for the inserts. So that's a kind of a run through. There was a lot there. I needed to take some time on some of that to really talk through some of the inserts and everything. Kind of my big takeaway. This is what it really comes down to. Some interesting cards. Obviously, here are some of the mock-ups. Again, I'll include a link to this so you can look at it. Before I finish up, though, I'm going to go over here to the Facebook tab, and I want to show you some of the images that were included. So here is the new version of Ringmasters, which I think looks okay. It looks pretty decent, but you can see there, they are sticker autos. So again, autographs are getting super tough. And then we're still looking at sticker autos all over this checklist. So next one here, we got a Mariah May sticker auto. Again, we already talked about some of these are short print or super short print. So you can see here the Mariah May. This would be a great pull, but obviously a very tough one based on what we just talked about when we looked at that checklist. So here's a Will Ospreay with the outbursts. The outbursts, like I mentioned before, I think look great. And I think on this design, they'll look pretty solid as well. Unfortunately, the images are a little bit dark. I would like the printer to do a better job taking the images on this and really letting them shine. But here you've got a red outburst out of 25. I think that'd be a massive pull. Here's a Mercedes Moné autograph, which hopefully you enjoyed looking at it because right there you can see the first UD. That's kind of the little subset thing that's included in there. It's going to be in the base set. It's also going to be on the insert parallels like this one, like the autograph version. Don't get too used to seeing this Mercedes Moné because it's going to be a very tough pull, especially since based on what we looked at in terms of the odds. Here are your trios cards. Again, very basic subset kind of thing. Here's a Julia Hart UD exclusives. This one I don't particularly like because the UD exclusives had the whole thing with the red and it looked kind of limited. Like if you look at it, you can see obviously the foil will be red to kind of fit it. It is numbered to 100. The image on this one actually for Julia Hart is actually a good choice. And with her having red in her gear, that's actually kind of a cool looking idea. But you can see other than a little bit with the foil, there really isn't much on there that is red to kind of do the whole UD exclusive. Just speaking honestly, I think this is probably one of the lazier attempts at the UD exclusive out of the various years they've had on there. But regardless, here's the UD exclusive out of 100. Here are your acetate clear cut cards. That looks fine. Here's your high gloss. Again, not really that crazy. Obviously, it is clearly labeled, which is great. Numbered to 10. Awesome. They're going to be tough cards to find. Kind of doing it from a player collection standpoint, these are usually pretty tough to come by. So hopefully if you find some early on when stuff's getting broken, try to get your hands on it where you can, because otherwise you'll be waiting for EPAC and it'll take a while before you're able to get your hands on these. Here's an Okada Outburst. These look great. I think in terms of design, I like it. Kyle Fletcher numbered parallel. I like this. I don't know if that was my favorite picture that I would have used for him, but nonetheless, it is nice that Kyle Fletcher is in the checklist for as part of that. Here's a dual autograph, and you can see there the autographs are slightly cut off. So again, considering how tough these autographs are, it would have been nice if a little quality control there. And again, they are sticker autos, so remember that, and they're super tough based on the odds that we gave. Here's your memorabilia. Nothing too crazy. MJF example again. And then here's a Darby Allin one. The image on Darby Allin's kind of fun. I like this one as a choice for an image. Pretty straightforward though. They follow the same design and just have a cutout to it, and that's how you get your memorabilia. Nothing too wild. Here's a Tony Storm Gold out of 25. That'll be a good pull if you're able to get some of these gold ones. And here's an example of the Finish It. Canvas. Here from the start. Not too crazy on these. It's going to have a foil board thing to it, which is fine, but I don't know. A little bit interesting on that one. Here's your neon monikers, which probably will look pretty cool in hand, I'll say. Here's your playing card with a different design on it. This one's numbered to 52, so this is one of the parallels, which I think will be kind of interesting. And then last but not least, here is the Day with the Belt example for Willow Nightingale. This is one that has been a reoccurring one. These are very tough to pull. I actually like that they put the Day with the Belt down there in the foil. I think that'll at least look pretty cool as opposed to just superimposing kind of this graphic on the front of it. Hopefully the images on them are pretty good. I will say probably one of the better efforts in terms of the design on these cards with a little bit of the foil board. But overall, I just think they're super tough for what they are. And again, I hope the images stand up to it because some of them have been a little bit disappointing in terms of what I've seen with some of the previous Days with the Belt. But it is a standard that has been included in a lot of these flagship releases. Okay, so to finish up overall, here's kind of my overall take on this. It's great to have this information and this news. It's very interesting to see it. I'll include a link in the description to these for you if you want to look at them over on your own. There's a lot to look at in terms of that, and you can kind of use one thing that I didn't show. For myself, I've already used it. You do have a tab for the master checklist. You can see obviously the font is very small, but you can search under the description if you want to search for your favorite character, whoever they are, and you can kind of put together a checklist for yourself and include some good information. It does include on the master all the odds. So you're able to see the odds and then go into it, see what subset or base set it is, inserts, everything. And you can see that all broken down nicely. I use this to create my own checklist for myself in terms of tracking down the different characters that I want. And this is a nice way of being able to search for it quickly and putting it together as opposed to going tab by tab. The master is really useful for that. So you can download that on the Excel spreadsheet, and it is there on the Beckett site. That link to the Excel spreadsheet is there, and you can download it yourself. So last thoughts are, I'm going to reserve judgment. I'll probably get a couple of boxes of this when it releases, as I usually do, and then I'll go through and we'll look at it. But like I said, based on the images we looked at, the autographs are going to be tough to pull, which is kind of disappointing because obviously that is one thing that a lot of people want as far as this is concerned. I'm concerned because I don't think the price point has improved any. If anything, the price point has crept up a little bit in terms of pre-orders. It looks a little bit more expensive than before. And then we're going to be full of a lot of inserts. When I open the boxes, I'll kind of go through it with you. But it's going to be a lot of these inserts, a lot of kind of those neon cards, a lot of the dazzlers, a lot of that kind of thing. And this has been a criticism in the past of this, total access and UD portraits and these kind of things. And there will be some parallels in there as well. But when we open up some of these boxes, what you're going to see is now memorabilia, a lot of them, are even tougher than before. The autographs are even tougher than before. Kind of your standard autograph is going to be about one per case. So you imagine even if you're doing a case break, one person or two people might get an autograph out of the entire thing, especially with so many of them being short printed. And because you've got super short prints on top of it, you're talking about say you want some of the more quote unquote desirable characters who happen to be SP'd or SSP'd. The likelihood is you're not going to pull it in a lot of breaks, or you're going to have to participate in a ton of them to maybe have a chance to pull one. So I guess best of luck. And even something like the Double or Nothing playing cards, that gold version is numbered to 52. That's going to be a pretty tough chase. So there are numbered cards throughout. Kind of interesting the way they decided to approach that. A lot of parallels and things. It will be a challenge. I know that I put together the Britt Baker checklist, and I think she had close to 35 or 40 cards with all the parallels and, the inclusions in certain inserts. But some of them are like SSP'd, the way that I showed. And I think some of that stuff is like case or multi-case hits. And some of those case and multi-case hits, retouched in the past. Haven't been too impressed with that. And that's a tough hit. And then you look at some of the other ones that are super tough hits and you go, are these the cards that I want to be trying to put that much effort to chase after? For example, to kind of finish it off, Day with the Belt. It's a cool looking card. If you're a Willow Nightingale fan, this is a cool looking card. Should this be a multi-case hit? Question mark. That's something I would kind of leave to you to kind of question. And that kind of just continues a trend where I kind of question the value proposition of Flagship, especially since out of all the different releases, Flagship is generally the one that's kind of like, okay, cool that we've got something new. That's great. And it's coming soon. So that's awesome. But it's not the most exciting release. So even participating in breaks, it's honestly not the most exciting break or release. But nonetheless, it is nice to have some new stuff. So I guess, beggars can't be choosers when we go these gaps in between. And I'm happy that not so long after Allure, we're actually getting another release. And then hopefully, cross our fingers, SP Game Use is not that far down the road and it's, happens around the time that it's expected to happen. And then maybe we get our 3 or 4 releases per year this year on a decent cadence so that we don't have these gigantic gaps in between. So that was a lot. If you got through it to the end, I appreciate it. Nonetheless, I'd be interested in any comments you have in the comments section. Some of you will probably say the same thing that I kind of expect. Oh, not enough autographs. Oh, this is not the best deal in the world. And yeah, I get it. And I don't disagree with you on a lot of it. And that's why I said it. So I think that's going to be very disappointing to some folks. Nonetheless, it is a new product that's coming out. It is nice to have something new to chase down, and we'll see basically how people respond to it once we actually start opening up boxes and get some singles out there. With that said, more videos coming up on the channel. We'll definitely talk about some more of these things as we get closer to it, and then once these product comes out, this one, I'll probably have a couple of boxes at least that I'll open up on the channel. That said, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like button or subscribe to the channel. Any of the engagement is always appreciated. Regardless, thanks for checking this one out, and we'll catch you in the next one.